So we're now on Daf Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis, and we're going to begin the parak called Cheresh Shenasa, which is, I think, not mistaken, the 14th parak. Yeah. So again, keep in mind that a cheresh, as we've mentioned in the past, is an eno shomea ve'eno medaber. Cheresh shenasa pikachas. So this is what's called kiddushin d'Rabbanan. Upikeach shenasa chereshes, or if he's a pikeach and she's a chereshes, once again, kiddushin d'Rabbanan. In rotza lahotzi yotzi. In Rotza L'Kayim, Yikayim. Now, if he's a Pikeach, then there's really no Chiddush here. Certainly, he could divorce his wife. But in the first case, where he's a Cheresh, that's a big Chiddush, that he can be Megarish his wife. Because usually we assume that a Cheresh has no Das, so he's not capable of a Maaseh Gerushin. No, Rotza Yotzi. And the Mishnah explains why. Kishem shehu kones beremiza, kachu motzi beremiza. Since the entire entity of Ishus that was created through his kedusha is the Rabbanan, and the Rabbanan allow him to make sign language to indicate to her that he wants to marry her. Again, I don't know exactly what signs he makes, but maybe he points to a sign. I don't know. So therefore, the Rabbanan are going to allow for his get and validate it when he's motzi beremiza. Again, he indicates that marriage is terminating. Pikeach shenasa pikachas. So far, it's the Suin Shel Torah, but later on, this Charsha, she unfortunately became a Chereshes. So she's no longer a Bastas. In Rotze Yotze, nevertheless, he can be Megarish. And this is unique, as the Gemara is going to say, to a woman, because in Gerushin, a woman has no das. It's even Bal Korcha. So the Chereshes is like Bal Korcha, which is okay. However, Nishtates, if unfortunately she loses it, then Lo Yotzi. We're afraid that if he'll divorce her, there'll be no Egbar Minag Hefker. Now, Ischarish who, Onishtate who, now he doesn't have das. He's certainly not capable of a Maaseh Gerushin. Eino Motzia Olamis. This is one of those halachic tragedies. She can never get a get from him. The only option is murder. I'm just kidding. But until he dies, until death do us part, she remains married to him. And she's a pikachas. She really would want to get married to someone else, but he doesn't have the capacity to give her a get. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, mipnei ma ha'isha shenischarsha yotza ve'isha nischarsha eino motzi. I don't understand the logic. You should be consistent, argues Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. If you're telling me that even though she became a chereshes, he can still give her a get, so why can't a cheresh give a get? Amrulo, so Chacham say that's not a fair analogy. Ein adom ish ha'ich hamagarish li'ich ha'misgaresh li'ich yotza b'lirtzona b'shalo v'rtzona ha'ich ein emotzi el l'rtzona. So we definitely need das for gerushin. And in this case, he became a cheresh. He doesn't have das. On the other hand, if she loses it and she became a chereshes, she can receive her get. And it's no difference than misgareshes bal karcha without her das. Heid Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgada al chereshes. She was a ketana. She sia avia. Her father received kiddushin on her behalf when she was a ketana. And the Torah gave permission and recognized the authority of her father to marry her off to whoever he wishes to marry her off to, and let the Baal decide if he wants to divorce her. And the chiddush here is that she's a chereshes. And Yotza beget, where's her das? How can he divorce her against as a chereshes when she has no das? And the father is out of the picture. He can't accept her get because he already married her off. Amrulo, the Chacham said to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, back in the first part of our Mishnah, and according to this testimony of Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgeda, that an Isha who has Kedushay Doraisa, her husband could divorce her even when she becomes Lav Bar Das. Is therefore Afzu, by analogy, this case as well, a woman who at the time of Kedushin was a Bikachas, and she had Kedushay Torah, and then she became a Chereshes, is she could go out with a get. It's exactly the same thing. You know, when there's Kedushim in Torah, yet nevertheless you could have Gerish and Shalom Mirtzona. So what does Rabbi Yochanan Nuri hold? A Baal cannot be Megarish unless he has Das and Ratzon. So too, Rabbi Yochanan Nuri argued that an Isha also, Ein ha-Isha Miskareshes el Lirtzona. There's no such thing as a get Baal Korcha. Like it now, because of Cherem Dor Ben Gershon. So since at the time that he delivers her the get, she doesn't understand what the get is all about, she's going to come back to her husband even after the get. So that should not be a get. She's at what's called a Meshalcha V'chozeres. So according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, just like a Baal cannot be Megarish Baal Korcho, he needs Ratzon, so too Eino Isha Miskaresh is Baal Korcho. That's because in the case of Cheresha, she's a Meshalcha of the Chozeres, and therefore the get could not be valid. Okay. Now the balance of this Mishnah is going to give us many, many different scenarios. I think we've touched on it in the past, of marriages between a Pikeach and a Chereshes, two Pikchim and two Chereshos, and two Cherechim and two Pichos, one Cheresh and one, all the different scenarios, and to try to figure out who died and is there an option of Chalitza, and what happens if the two Yevamos that fell for Yibum are Achios, they're sisters. Shnei Achim Chershin Nesui Shtei Achios Chershos. So now we have Kiddushin D'Rabbanan, both mitzad the Baal and mitzad the Isha. Yibum is out of the question because the live surviving brother is married to the sister of the Yevamot. Another scenario. Oh, two Achin Chershin l'shtei Achios Pikchos. So here the Sunnah the Rabbanan only mitzad the Baal. He's a Cherish. Oh, here's a third possibility. Two brothers that are Chershin, married two sisters. Achas Chereshes v'achas Pikachas. One is incapable of Chalitza, and the other is capable of Chalitza. Oshtei Achios Chershos Nesuas l'shnei Achim Pikchim. So there are two Pikchim who marry two sisters who are Chershos. Or two Achios Chershos that are married to Shnei Achim Chershim. O Lishnei Achim Echad Cheresh, the Echad Pikeach. Harei Elu, in all the above cases, P'turas min hachalita u'min ha'yibum. Now, since we're talking about Shtei Achios, and there's an erev of Achos Ishto, that part is up from Yibum. And even if the Kedushin is only Derabanan, and on a Deraisa level, there's no erev here of Achos Ishto. Nevertheless, the Isra erev Derabanan part is the Yibum Derabanan, because the Kedushin itself from the get-go was Derabanan. So that's good news. She doesn't need chalitza. Because again, in a lot of these cases, if she would need chalitza, she's not capable of chalitza. Now we're going to take these scenarios and talk about nochrios. So the two wives who are married to two brothers are not related to each other. Im are you nochrios, then yichnosu. In all these cases, there will be yibum. Again, the yibum will only be derabanan because the ichus is derabanan. But why is there no chalitza option here? And here we get into the problem of kriya. She's not capable of kriya to say lo chafatzta. What does she say? Kacha yasa leish, etc. The imrotzu lahotzi yotzi. He wants to divorce her, he can do so. He says here, Yotziu beremiza. Kechol cherish rotza legarish. Kevish kolzi kasa yimu rak midrabanan sheba machmas nisu and drabanan yachol otzia beremiza. Behu bechlal masha omru liel benisui cherish shem chekonis beremiza kach otzia beremiza. Shnei achim echad cherish echad pikeach nisu shtei achios pikchos. So the marriage of the cherish to the bikachas is only d'Rabbanan. The marriage of the bikeach with the bikachas is d'oraisa. Meis cherish bal hapikachas. So now the wife of the cherish falls for yibum, and the other brothers are bikeach. Ma yasa bikeach bal hapikachas. See, once the Eshes HaCheresh falls for Yibum, his wife now, at least on the Drabbana level, becomes Achos Ishto, or more precisely Achos Kukasa. It's Teitze Mishum Achos Isha. So he has to divorce his wife. But there's no need for chalitza. So the Erev of Achos Ish. Meis Pikeach Bala Pikachas. So now the Eishes HaPikeach is falling for even to the Cheresh. And now again, as we said earlier, the Yevamot is Achos Kukasa. His own wife is now Achos Kukasa. And we're dealing with Zika Doraisa because we're talking about a Pikach Bala Pikachas. Is Motzi Ishto Beget. Unbelievable. Because of the Zika Sibma, he has to divorce his own wife. Now you might ask, why is it Bechlal? A Nefila for Yibum to make his wife into Achos Kukaso, if the Zika is to a woman who's Achos Ishto, so there shouldn't be any Zika at all. But the answer is because his marriage is Doraisa, the Zika is his marriage is Rabbanon, and the Zika is Doraisa. And the Baal and the Pikachas, who falls from the for Yibum because the death of her husband, is Asura Liolam. Why? Because she's an Ereva of Achos Isha. And that's Doraisa. Okay, so now let him divorce his wife. And then he could be Miyabim the Yevamot. The answer is no, she's Achos Rushasa. Again, even though it's all Durabanan, but that's enough to block Yibum. So what about Chalitza? Chalitza is not an option because he's a Cheresh. Cheresh is not capable of Chalitza. So the Yevama is Asura Liol. Next, Shnei Achim Pikrim Nisuin Lishtei Achios Achas Chereshes Viachas Pikachas. So we have a combination now of Nisuin Doraisa and Nisuin Dorabonon and two Achios. Meis Pikech Bal Chereshes. So now the marriage Dorabonon, and now the Chereshes falls for Yibum in front of the Pikeach. Is Ma Yasa Pikeach Bal Pikachas. With the death of the Pikeach Bal Chereshes, what happens with the Chereshes? Is Teitze Mishum Achos Isha. That's fine. That's simple. There's no Yibum, no Chalitza. She's Achos Isha. But what about the opposite case? Meis Pikeach Bal Pikachas. So there we're dealing with Yibum Doraisa. And she's only Achos Ishto because Ishto is Chereshes D'Rabbanan. Ma Yasa Pikeach Bal HaChereshes Motzi is Ishto Beget. he must divorce his wife because she's achos kukasa. Yes, Eishes Achiv Bechalitza. So again, on a Darbona level, we block Yibum because she is achos kukasa. And therefore, Yotzia Bechalitza. Right, because obviously the chalitza pikeach is kshera. Shnei achim echad cherish, v'echad pikeach. Nitsuin l'shtei achios, achas chereshes v'achas pikachas. So it means the cheresh married the chereshes, and the pikeach married the pikachas. Meis cheresh bal ha-chereshes. So his wife, who's a chereshes, fell for yibum to his brother who's a pikeach. Mayas pikeach papa. Teitze mishum achos isha. So it means the woman who falls for yibum in this case, which is the Eshes HaCheresh, and she's a Chereshes, she can get married to anyone she wants to without yibum or chalitz because she's an erva of achos isha. Meis pikeach Bal pikachas, Mayasa cheresh bal chereshes. He cannot be miyabimo because she's achos ishto. Motzias ishto beget the Eshes Achiv Asur Liola. Right, so his wife is achos kukaso, and therefore he has to divorce her. And the Eshes Achiv, who falls for yibum now, the pikachas, is Asur L'chol Adam Liola. He's a cheresh, so he cannot implement chalitza, so that's not an option. She remains kukalo. And he can't be miyabimo because midrabanan at least she's achos kruchasa. Shnei achim echad cheresh, v'echad pikech nesuin l'shtei nachrios, pikchos. So you have two brothers, one's a cheresh, one is a pikech, and they're married to two pikchos, but then nachrios, they're not related to each other. Meis cheresh bal pikachas. So the cheresh dies, and his wife falls for yibum in front of the pikeach, and that's going to be a zika d'Rabbanan. Mayasa pikeach bal pikachas. What should the pikeach do to be matir? The Yevamot or Cholet. So Miyami has two options. No problem over here. They're nochrios. Beis pikech bal pikachas. Mayasa cheresh bal pikachas. Here there's no option of chalitza because he's a cheresh. So he could be miyabim her. Chalitza is out of the picture because he's a cheresh. The cheresh is not capable of chalitza. The Eino Motzi Liolam. Because now we're dealing with the Nesuin Doraisa, and a get beremiza, which is only a get berabana, cannot be mafkia Nesuin Doraisa. That reflects the halachic status of Zika Doraisa. I can pick in Nisun l'shtei nochrios achas pikachas v'achas chereshes meis pikach balach chereshes mayasa pikach balach chereshes kones bim rotza lahotzi yotzi. So again, chalitza is not an option here because she's a chereshes. Meis pikach bal pikachas mayasa pikach balach chereshes o cholet tomiyavin. No problem. Shnei achim echad cheresh v'echad pikeach nesuim l'shtei nochrios achas chereshes v'achas pikachas meis cheresh bal chereshes. So the chereshes now falls in front of the acha pikeach for yibum. Mayasa pikeach bal pikachas. How's he matir is kones, right? He marries the chereshes. He's not capable of chalitza because she's a chereshes. He wants to divorce her, he will give her a get. Even though it's shalomi daito, but kevod she'ichem es kareshes bal koch. Meis pikach bal pikachas. So now she falls for yibum in front of her brother-in-law who's a cheresh. Mayasa cheresh bal chereshes. Obviously, chalitza is not an option. Kones. But any motzi liolam. A cheresh is not capable of being megarish. So the nesuin is nesuin d'oraisa, and there's no option for gerushin. Okay, then we'll stop here at the Gemara.